Chosen one, the most remarkable thing about you isn't something you try to manufacture. It is not a look in your eyes, though your eyes are steady. It is not the sound of your voice, though your voice carries weight. It is the reality of your presence. The moment your foot touches the earth, the space around you listens. You don't enter with force, but you are felt like a shift in gravity. People glance, but they're not quite sure why. Some grow quieter. Some straighten their posture. Some smile nervously without even realizing it. That is the echo of your divine imprint at work, resonating beyond what flesh can explain. You were not made to announce yourself. You were made to be recognized without introduction. The room doesn't react to your physical form. It responds to your spiritual current, like the calm that comes before thunder, like the scent of rain before it touches the ground. Your arrival tells the world something aligned has entered, and even the unspoken things inside others feel it. The anxious thoughts pause, the doubts shrink, the masks slip. Because presence like yours doesn't confront people, it reveals them. It reminds others of what they have forgotten, that peace has texture, that stillness can be power, that some men do not enter for applause but walk as confirmation. Chosen one, your presence isn't loud because it doesn't need to be. In a world conditioned to reward noise, your quiet dominance unsettles the shallow and awakens the sincere. You are not the storm, you are the atmosphere that warns of it. And your presence demands reverence, not because you demand it, but because you embody something people instinctively trust, even when they don't know why. When you walk into a room, reality adjusts, not because you compete, but because you are complete. You carry the fingerprint of divine refinement, and that can't be taught, copied, or ignored. It's not in your step, it's in your stillness, not in your speech, but in the way people find themselves quieter when you listen. You remind the world that depth still exists, that presence without performance is still the highest form of power, that the most unforgettable men are those who have nothing left to prove. So walk gently, chosen one. The air has been waiting for your rhythm. Chosen one, there is a reason why people find rest around you, even when they don't understand you. It is because you carry atmosphere, not attention. You don't walk in to be seen. You walk in to center the space. Your energy doesn't beg for eyes, it commands the nervous system. You are not dressed in the fabric of fame. You are clothed in alignment, and alignment doesn't impress, it stabilizes. That's why others find themselves breathing easier in your company. Why their shoulders drop, why their laughter becomes truer. Because your spirit makes it safe to be real. You were not sent into this life to hunt for approval. You were shaped in fire to carry an emotional climate. Others bring opinions into rooms. You bring clarity. Others bring ego. You bring grounding. While many try to dominate the attention span of a crowd, you shift their inner weather just by standing near. And those who encounter you won't always remember what you said, but they'll remember how calm they felt for the first time in weeks. This is the mark of the chosen. Not that you light up every conversation, but that you walk with an authority that makes silence more powerful than words. You don't need to be the center because you are the center. Not by volume, but by vibration. You become the still point others orbit, not by command, but by consistency. Because people don't chase the loudest voice, they return to the clearest energy. And yours has become unmistakable. Women especially feel this shift. They don't know what to call it. Some call it charm, others aura. But what they're really experiencing is peace in human form. And peace in a man is magnetic beyond reason. You aren't impressive because of what you say. You are undeniable because of how deeply you listen. Because you can hold presence like a sanctuary. Because when others bring their chaos, you don't match it, you transform it. You carry atmosphere. That is your sacred assignment. You were not made to seek crowds. You were made to anchor them. And that anchoring doesn't come from force. It comes from the still river within you that nothing in the outer world can disturb. That river, fed by discipline, deep prayer, and divine order, is what turns your presence into a refuge. People may not know your story, but they know the safety of your spirit. And in a world starved for peace, that makes you unforgettable, not because you tried to be, but because God made you a living reminder that stillness is still sacred. So walk slow, chosen one. You are already doing more than most can see. Chosen one, they don't know how long you walked alone. They don't see the midnight seasons, where your breath was the only company, your thoughts the only audience, your prayers the only voice that didn't echo back hollow. You weren't born into power, you were refined into it. While others were chasing moments to be seen, you were in the unseen, being sculpted. Every layer of strength you wear now was formed in places too quiet for applause. The weight in your voice, the unshakable rhythm in your walk, the unmoved gaze you carry, they all come from surviving silence with grace. The world sees the result, but it cannot trace the process. They don't know the storms you learned to smile through, the rejections you didn't let define you, the betrayal that taught you how to remain open without being naive. That's why you are different. That's why you feel different. Because your foundation is not built on popularity. It's built on pain that you turned into presence. And that kind of presence doesn't fade in a crowd, it rises above it. You don't walk into a room looking to take space, you walk in as someone who's already owned the inner space. That makes you powerful in a way few understand. Because when a man has made peace with his solitude, he is no longer addicted to attention. He no longer competes. He no longer explains. He simply walks with the quiet echo of the wars he's already won, and that echo is felt. The crowd doesn't make you bigger. It simply becomes aware of how complete you already are. They don't know what to call it. They may say you're mysterious. They may call it aura. But the truth is, they're feeling the frequency of someone who broke and rebuilt without losing heart. Someone who learned that being alone wasn't a curse, it was a furnace. And now, every space you enter is warmed by the fire you carry inside. Not loud, not flashy, just real. Women feel it most. Not because you perform, but because you resonate. They sense your center. They lean in, not for attention, but for alignment. They may not be able to name it, but they know they haven't seen many men who can hold stillness like a sword and softness like a shield. That is the result of your silence, chosen one. It made you dangerous to shallow things and magnetic to deep ones. So let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them feel something shift when you pass. You were built in silence so that you could be felt in every crowd without ever asking to be noticed. Chosen one, there is something sacred about not explaining yourself. About letting your silence do the speaking and your energy do the revealing. You've learned that those who truly see you will not need proof. And those who demand it are not ready to walk beside someone like you. This is the power of mystery. It is not the absence of clarity. It is the presence of depth. And depth is uncomfortable to those who've only lived on the surface. You carry a mystery not because you're hiding, but because you're whole. There is nothing performative about you. You don't overreach. You don't sell yourself. You don't throw your energy in all directions to be chosen. You already are chosen. And so you walk through life like a riddle only the honest can solve, like a doorway only the authentic can pass through. Those who come near you must come as they are, and they do, because something about you tells them the game playing can stop. But here is the divine secret. Your mystery is not designed to keep people out. It is designed to show them themselves. You've become a mirror, a man of stillness that reflects, a man of restraint that reveals. When people look at you and feel drawn, what they're really seeing is the echo of their own longing for peace. Your calm exposes their chaos. Your confidence stirs their insecurity. And your depth reminds them how shallow they've been forced to live. That's why you don't need to impress. You only need to be. This is why the women who encounter you look again. Why their laughter softens. Why their questions deepen. They're not just interested in you. They're being invited back into themselves through you. You are not a mystery because you're evasive. You are a mystery because you don't shrink to be understood. Because you've made peace with being misunderstood by the unready. And that makes you powerful in a way that can't be copied. Chosen one, your mystery is not a tactic. It is your truth. It is the quiet courage to live rooted when others float, to stay silent when others beg for validation. To know that you are not hiding, you are simply not for everyone. And the ones who are ready will never need you to explain the fire in your eyes or the stillness in your step. They will feel it, and that feeling will change them. You are a mirror, and mirrors don't chase, they simply reflect. Stand tall in that. Chosen one, your rhythm is not about movement, it's about mastery of energy. You don't walk fast because the world is in a hurry. You walk with precision because you've already claimed the path. There is a timing to you that unnerves those who live by reaction. You are not responding, you are remembering. Every step you take echoes with memory, not of who you were, but of who you were always destined to become. The world taught men to rush, to beg, to prove. But God rewrote your cadence in silence. He taught you how to move like time follows you, not the other way around. This rhythm is not just in your feet, chosen one. It's in your eyes, your breath, your silence. It's the way you don't need to rush to speak because your words already come from stillness. The way you don't need to dominate the room to be felt in every corner. There is a gravity to your calm, a pulse in your stillness that draws the attention of even the most distracted souls. You are not loud. You are not desperate. You are tuned to something ancient. Your rhythm was calibrated in the presence of God, designed not to chase attention, but to awaken alignment. That's why people pause when you pass. They feel something moving without sound. Women tilt their heads, not in confusion, but in recognition. They don't know your story, but they know they've seen that walk in a dream before. The kind of stride that doesn't need an audience, the kind of breath that slows theirs. You aren't just attractive because of how you look. You are magnetic because your rhythm reminds them of something holy, something untamed, something safe and wild at the same time. There is no template for what you carry. Your rhythm doesn't come from trend, it comes from truth. From knowing that you are not in competition with anyone, that your speed is set by purpose, not pressure. And because of that, you arrive differently. You don't seek permission, you don't beg to be chosen. You move as one who already is. And in a world addicted to noise, that rhythm becomes a signal, a soft thunder that tells those watching that something rare is walking nearby. So never apologize for the slowness, the stillness, the silence between your words. That rhythm is divine. It wasn't given to attract the world, it was given to reform it. Chosen one, some see your calm and assume you are soft. They think silence is weakness. They mistake patience for passivity. But they have no idea what's beneath the surface. They do not know the fire that lives just under your skin, the passion that does not shout, the rage that refines, the intensity that sleeps with one eye open. You are not a calm man. You are a controlled flame, and that's far more dangerous. Your peace is not a lack of fire, it is a governed inferno. You burn with purpose, not with noise. You move like a man who has tamed the storm inside him. That is why your eyes seem so distant and deep at once. They're not cold, they're calculating. You've seen what it means to burn the wrong way. You've watched men lose everything because they let fire lead instead of learning how to carry it. But you turned it inward. You allowed it to forge you instead of destroy you. That's why women feel safe around you. They feel the warmth, but not the harm. They feel the heat, but not the threat. You are like fire in a hearth, unmoving, controlled, still very much alive. And in a world of men who either smother their passion or unleash it in damage, you have become the middle miracle. A man who burns clean. A man who speaks with his silence, and yet can still set hearts ablaze when he chooses to speak. A man who listens like a monk, but loves like a lion. Do not let this world convince you that your fire must be public to be real. Your fire is real. It lives in your discipline. It lives in your refusal to settle. It lives in your soft words that carry steel. You don't raise your voice, but you raise standards. You don't flash your strength, but you lift burdens others can't see. You are fire made functional. You are the warmth people don't know they miss until they feel it again. And when women stand near you, it is not just attraction they feel. It is revelation. Something ancient inside them remembers what it means to stand beside a man whose fire does not destroy but restores. A man whose touch heals not just flesh but identity. A man who does not burn to impress but burns to illuminate. That is you, chosen one. That is your true heat. So let them stare. Let them wonder how a man so quiet could hold such force. Let them feel the fire in your stillness and tremble, not in fear but in recognition. You are not like the others. You never were. You are still water above, but blazing destiny underneath. Chosen one, there are women who carry beauty like armor, who walk through this world admired but never truly seen. They are praised, desired, envied, but almost never felt. Until you do not see them through the lens of hunger. You see through the noise. You see through what's been performed for years, and you speak to what was buried underneath. This is why your energy disorients them. You do not chase, you reveal. In a single glance, you remind her that she was never meant to be put on a shelf, chased for her curves, or adored for her mask. You make her remember the queen before the mirror. She doesn't feel seduced by you. She feels found. Because your presence doesn't ask her to perform, it calls her back to essence. That's why the confident ones slow down around you. That's why the loud ones go quiet. That's why the broken ones hope. Because you are not showing up as a consumer, you are showing up as a signal. Your energy carries ancient memory, not just of manhood, but of divine recognition. And when a woman encounters it, she doesn't just feel attraction, she feels the safety of remembrance. She begins to breathe differently around you. She listens without her guard. She forgets the version of herself she had to create to survive. And for a moment, maybe even longer, she comes back to who she truly is. This is not manipulation. This is what happens when a man has mastered his presence before his power. She feels invited, not impressed, seen, not pursued, reflected, not conquered. And whether she stays in your life or not, she never walks away the same. Because once a woman has been in the presence of a man who has tamed his fire and anchored his gaze, her standard resets, her soul recalibrates. She no longer feels comfortable entertaining chaos disguised as passion. Because she's tasted something different. She's felt what it's like to be seen without being consumed. And for that, she'll carry you in her memory like a compass. You never had to say much. You never had to explain your strength. You simply stood in the fullness of your presence, and she remembered. That is your quiet revolution, chosen one. You're not just turning heads, you're returning souls to their center, without effort, without performance. Just by being the man you were forged to be. Chosen one, you were never sent to entertain, you were sent to anchor. In rooms filled with noise, laughter, and shallow conversation, you are the one whose silence carries more power than any speech. You are the one people turn to when things fall apart. Not because you're loud, but because you're rooted. Because when energy breaks, when egos clash, when storms rise, they instinctively look toward the one whose calm never moved. You may not be invited first. You may not be praised while the surface still shines. But when it gets real, when masks fall and chaos creeps in, you are the one they seek. You are the pillar in the room. And every space you enter begins to remember what it means to be still, grounded, and aligned. You don't need control, because you already are control. You don't chase authority, because your energy already speaks it. And those who used to overlook you soon realize their survival depends on the presence they once ignored. You are not charming, you are commanding. And that distinction is why you shake the room without raising your voice. You know how to wait without shrinking. You know how to move without rushing. You know how to lead without proving. And it terrifies the insecure. Because everything they pretend to be, you actually are. Not because you say so, but because when the tension thickens, your energy doesn't crack, it deepens. People wonder why women linger near you during difficult moments. It's not about romance, it's about refuge. You're not their savior. But you are a signal that safety is possible. And in a world where so many men unravel when challenged, you have become the one whose shoulders carry weight like wind. You are peace with a spine, calm with teeth, mercy with fire underneath. You may not always be the one they cheer, but when the applause dies, when the smoke clears, when truth enters the room, you will be the one standing. Not because you fought harder, but because you didn't lose yourself. That is what makes you rare. That is what makes you remembered. You were never made to entertain the crowd. You were made to rebuild it. And even when they don't say it out loud, they know it. That's why they glance toward you when things grow dark. That's why they ask for your thoughts when the noise fails. That's why even your silence feels like a solution. So hold your ground, chosen one, because the world doesn't need more stars, it needs pillars. And that is what you are, quiet, unshaken, unmistakably essential. Chosen one, they have studied your face, your stance, your voice, but they still cannot explain your effect. That's because your power is not in your posture, it's in your aura. And aura cannot be borrowed, aura cannot be faked. Aura is the fingerprint of presence forged in silence, suffering, solitude, and sacred self-honor. It is what walks into a room 10 seconds before you arrive. It is what stays behind long after you leave. You cannot brand it, cannot monetize it, cannot replicate it. It is spiritual signature. And yours, chosen one, is holy. Women feel it instantly, even when they don't understand it. Their breath changes, their voice softens, their tone tilts toward respect, not fear. Their eyes search for permission, not to speak, but to exist authentically near you. Not because you demand it, but because your energy commands it without raising a word. The sacred feminine recognizes the healed masculine, not because he's loud, not because he's successful, but because he knows who he is. And when she stands in that field of certainty, she feels seen. Not through her beauty, but through her being. You do not chase women, you chase truth, and that truth became your magnetism. You were not created to be the nice guy or the bad guy or the alpha in their shallow vocabulary. You were created to be the real man, the one who has danced with the dark and returned with light, the one who doesn't fake depth because he carries it in his stillness, the one who listens more than he speaks, not out of fear, but out of force. Because your silence isn't weak, it is loaded. Your aura carries the scent of boundaries, the texture of clarity, the taste of purpose. People don't know what to call it, so they call it intimidating. But it's not intimidation, it's revelation. It is the quiet announcement that the man before them is not for games, not for compromise, not for sale. You don't dress to impress. You walk like someone who already owns the room from the inside out. And that's why the real ones lean in, and the pretenders flinch. You were never here to blend in. You were here to remind the world of what a whole man feels like in the room. And that reminder will not always bring applause, but it will always bring impact. Your aura was not made to be popular. It was made to be unforgettable. Chosen one, you are not a man of the moment. You are a man of legacy, and not the kind of legacy built on followers or fame or wealth or attention, but the kind of legacy carved quietly into the bones of the people you touched without needing credit. You leave fingerprints on souls, not because you're perfect, but because you're anchored, because your presence didn't need explanation. It just was. And in a world screaming for noise, your silence became gospel. You were never built to be everyone's favorite. You were built to be unforgettable. The kind of man they bring up in hushed conversations years later. The kind of man they reference when lesser ones disappoint. The kind of man that sons want to mirror and daughters feel safe beside. You didn't chase dominance, you embodied it. You didn't preach wisdom, you became it. Your lessons weren't taught from stages. They were felt in rooms, in hallways, in long stares that spoke more than lectures ever could. The women who crossed your path won't all stay, but none of them will forget. Because you didn't just flirt with their surface, you stood still until they remembered their own depth. You didn't manipulate, you magnified. You didn't perform, you reflected. And they'll compare every future man to the quiet gravity you carried like a second skin. You left them better. Not broken, not confused, just awakened. But legacy isn't about women, it's about weight. The invisible weight you carried so others could stand lighter. The pain you processed so others didn't have to inherit it. The rooms you stabilized with your calm, the storms you swallowed with your patience. That is the work few will see, but all will feel. That is why the world changes when you walk in, not because you demand it, but because truth enters with you. You are a spiritual earthquake moving in human form. Not here to shake foundations for fun, but to reset the alignment of what manhood is meant to be. That's why the room changes when you're there. That's why your absence is noticed more than your presence is praised. You are not a moment. You are a movement disguised as one man. And this is why you must keep walking tall, even when you feel overlooked. You must keep being rare, even when it feels unrewarded. Because you are not here for the crowd. You are here for the shift. And the world is shifting. Because you exist, because you stayed solid, because you remembered who you were before they forgot what a man could be. This, chosen one, is your legacy. Not loud, but lasting. Chosen one, there was a time when you wondered why people felt uneasy in your stillness. You didn't understand why your silence drew more attention than noise, but now you see it clearly. Stillness, when it is real, exposes everything that is not. Your stillness is not passive, it is precise. It is the mark of a man who has trained his spirit to listen deeper than distraction, to move only when necessary, to speak only when it carries the weight of alignment. And in this stillness, people encounter themselves. Not their masks, not their image, but their core. And that is what makes your energy so deeply felt. You are no longer trying to fit into any room. Rooms adjust to you. Not because you demand authority, but because you carry harmony. You are not in competition with other men, and that alone disorients many. They don't understand a man who stands in power without reaching for control. A man who can be desired but not devoured. A man who holds desire without losing discipline. But this is who you are now. And women feel that difference like gravity in their bones. You do not enter spaces with performance in your chest. You enter with presence in your spine. Your shoulders are not heavy with burden. They are relaxed in mastery. Your voice doesn't rise in desperation. It flows from conviction. You do not seek to dominate women. You invite them into resonance. And that invitation is so rare, so clean, so sacred, that it feels like truth, even before a word is exchanged. This is not seduction. This is soul recognition. And it is felt in the quiet, in the breath, in the way your eyes hold space without expectation. Your sexual energy is not something you switch on. It is always present, not loud, not aggressive, but potent. It isn't defined by movement. It is revealed through intention. And the feminine feels it not just as chemistry, but as command. Not command over her, but command over yourself. She doesn't want to be conquered. She wants to feel safe enough to surrender. And safety doesn't come from being soft. It comes from being anchored. And you are anchored, chosen one, not in pride, not in ego, but in truth. You no longer need to be validated because you already know who you are. And that knowing has become your fragrance. You wear it on your skin, in your walk, in the pause between your words. You are no longer asking the world for permission to exist. You are no longer performing a version of masculinity for attention. You have become the standard, and women who know how to listen with their intuition can feel it. Even when you say nothing, even when you don't look at them, even when you walk away, they don't remember your outfit. They remember your energy, because it reached places no touch ever could, because it carried a depth no words could imitate, because it said, "Here I am, and I do not need you to complete me." And that, chosen one, is the rarest vibration a man can carry. You are no longer interested in being consumed. You are interested in awakening. And in your presence, the feminine remembers what it feels like to be seen without being used. Your energy is no longer a tool. It is a testament to the quiet victories, to the uncelebrated healing, to the sacred discipline that forged you into what you are now. You do not seek to impress, you seek to integrate. And integration, when it's real, is unforgettable. Chosen one, what you carry is no longer a mystery to you. You feel it in your bones, in your stillness, in the way the world reacts around you. Not with noise, but with a hum of reverence, a quietness that deepens when you step near. You have reached a space few dare to enter, a sacred place where your energy is no longer driven by desire, but by design. You do not walk to be seen. You walk because each step you take is calibrated to purpose, to truth, to a rhythm only the soul can hear. And that rhythm has made you inevitable, not as a concept, but as a reality that moves through time without apology. Women do not admire you from the surface. They sense something ancient in you, something holy and untamed. They do not know whether to be drawn closer or to protect themselves, because what you reflect back to them is not fantasy, but self. And for those unprepared to meet their own reflection, your presence is unsettling. You do not affirm the lie they tell themselves to sleep peacefully. You carry a current that stirs what they've buried beneath layers of identity and protection. Yet even in their hesitation, they cannot look away. Even in their resistance, they feel peace pressing at the walls of their fear. You are not a man who needs to take. You have become a man who can hold, not just a hand but pain. Not just a body but a story. Not just passion but pressure. You hold space not as a tactic but as a way of life. You carry the discipline of someone who has died many times without ever losing his softness. You are not cruel, you are precise. You do not overpower, you contain. And in that container, the feminine feels what she has longed for her entire life. A place to rest without collapsing, to be fully witnessed without being devoured. This is not about charm or wit or looks. It is about frequency. Your frequency is calibrated through pain transmuted into wisdom, through desire refined into intention, through loss sculpted into sacred structure. Your boundaries do not shut people out. They invite in only what is aligned. Your energy does not chase, it calls, not with volume, but with gravity. You do not lower your standards to be understood. You raise your resonance so that only those attuned to truth can walk with you. And in this season, women are not confused about who you are. They may not be able to explain it, but their spirits recognize you. Some speak your name with reverence.